Your biological signature is currently being liquidated by soul exposure toxicity. Look at your reactance threshold, the way your nervous system triggers an immediate surge of explanation, defense, or emotional bleeding, the act of discharging your internal capital. Whenever you are judged or misunderstood, effectively allowing the matrix to install a spirit lock into your apex frequency. You are a biological unit experiencing a state of terminal esoteric liquidation. The matrix has successfully branded openness as a virtue and mystery as a red flag, but in the terminal of the absolute power grid, the ghost code is the only biological fact that determines who is an open book for harvest and who is a sovereign enigma. You are living in a state of chronic transparency infection, where your activation energy is being spent being seen rather than engineering the void. The system doesn't want your peace. It wants your vulnerability to be the proof that your spirit has been successfully indexed as a readable file for the architect. Thousands of years ago, superiority was defined by the biological capacity to be mentally unreachable. Your ancestor, the sovereign of the unmapped dark, understood that the known soul was a tracking beacon for the manipulator. He mastered primal grounding in the law of the silent alchemist. He didn't seek understanding or spiritual community within the tribal hierarchy. He offered the visual rage of a total, unyielding ghost autocracy, the state where you treat your inner world as a classified military zone rather than a public park. His hierarchy was built on the foundation of the internal lockdown mandate, the understanding that the human brain is a machine that achieves its highest strategic density only when it operates as a closed-circuit system that no longer leaks data to the herd. His biological rebellion was his total refusal to be known. He possessed a mind that treated confession as a biological toxin, stripping away the authenticity sludge until only the monolith of his raw, sharpened silence remained. He understood that the moment you tell someone your pain, you have surrendered your apex signature. To become untouchable, you must first become psychologically repulsed by the concept of sharing your truth. The ghost code is the implementation of the collar of the invisible, the refusal of spiritual friction for your final internal dominance. The system wants you to be transparent and authentic, words that mean harvestable and weak. Absolute sovereignty is a biological siege of the perception grid. It is the visual rage of the architect, seeing the social grid for what it is, a series of confession hooks, stimulus response lures, and deciding to be the one who shorts the circuit by being indifferently cryptic. You must develop a clinical cold contempt for mainstream spiritual ethics. Being an open book is a horizontal bond for the herd to keep them tethered to a common level of slow emotional decay. Absolute presence is a vertical tool for the elite. You must learn to occupy the blind spots of the psychic radar. Use the temporal noose of the total internal blackout to force your biology into a state of hyper-focus. Use the false safety of a calm robotic delivery to mask the activation of your total internal independence. This is the color of freedom. By mastering the art of the unmoved soul, you become the only person in the room whose value is not being broadcast from their current emotional narrative. The matrix cannot simulate the leverage of a man who views privacy as a weapon and mystery as the wall. Your time is the temporal noose, and your need to be understood is the knot. Every heart-to-heart you have to feel connected, and every vulnerable post you share to be seen as human, is a signature on your own biological death warrant. I command you, initiate the total spiritual audit. Your mind is a biological weapon, and it is currently being jammed by the static of your own socialized fear of being misunderstood. You must perform a hard reset of the privacy instincts. Stop being open, the industrial waste designed to keep you at the bottom of the ledger. Stop participating in their authenticity myths and vulnerability propaganda, the digital narratives designed to make you believe that emotional honesty is a victory. Stop using their social protocols, the narratives designed to keep you in a state of constant strategic failure. You must prune your life of psychic parasites. If a connection requires you to open up to be valued, it is a biological saboteur. You must learn to love the weight of the absolute sovereignty. This is the monolith strategy, becoming a biological fortress that is the ghost by choice and sovereign by design. Command: become the void or be the data. The neural interface of your internal allocation is currently suffering from relational data leakage. Look at your exposure threshold, the way your nervous system triggers a microspike of relief or connection action, the act of discharging your biological capital. The moment you get something off your chest, effectively allowing the matrix to install a monitoring sync into your apex frequency. You are a biological unit experiencing a total psychic sovereignty liquidation. The matrix has successfully replaced your primal predator silence with a systemic transparency protocol. You believe that by being vulnerable, you are building trust, but in the terminal of the absolute power grid, vulnerability is just a biological sinkhole used to ensure your neurological momentum is always mapped and predicted by the architect's social algorithms. This is the visual rage of the domesticated male, seeing your high-value activation energy being bled out into deep conversations and explaining your intentions, while the true operator remains in a state of absolute zero, converting his total rejection of emotional accessibility into a biological weight that makes him a ghost in the machine. The system doesn't want your peace, it wants your data to be the proof that your spirit has been successfully socialized and placed in a public disclosure loop. In the ancient hierarchy, the law of the unbreaking stone, the master was the one who could survive the total deletion of the external witness. Your ancestor, the sovereign of the unmapped dark, understood that visibility was a neurological anchor, not a virtue. He mastered primal grounding by becoming an esoteric autocrat, a figure who understood that the only way to retain authority was to be the primary mystery in a world of oversharing drones. He didn't seek empathy or community validation within the tribal hierarchy. He provided the visual rage of a total, unannounced internal annexation. His hierarchy was built on the foundation of asymmetric information control, the understanding that the human brain is a machine that achieves peak respect density only when it realizes it is in the presence of a force that it cannot read. His biological rebellion was his total refusal to describe himself. He possessed a mind that treated authenticity as a biological trap, a signal that his trajectory was being averaged out by the herd. He understood that the moment you tell someone who you are, you have surrendered your apex signature and become predictable biomass. To be a master, you must first become psychologically repulsed by the concept of mutual understanding. The ghost code is the activation of the anti-chew, the refusal to be spiritually digested, protocol for your final internal dominance. The matrix wants you to be open and vulnerable, words that mean harvestable and weak. Absolute sovereignty is a biological siege of the perception baseline. It is the visual rage of the architect, seeing the social grid for what it is, a series of confession hooks, stimulus-response lures, and deciding to be the one who shorts the circuit by being indifferently cryptic. You must develop a clinical cold contempt for mainstream spiritual ethics. Opening up is a horizontal bond for the herd to keep them tethered to a common level of slow emotional decay. Absolute presence is a vertical tool for the elite. You must learn to occupy the psychological high ground by controlling the flow of your own biological signals. Use the temporal noose of the total information blackout to drive the system's influence into a state of tracking failure. Use the false safety of a calm, robotic delivery to mask the activation of your total internal independence. This is the color of freedom. By mastering the art of the unmoved soul, you become the only person in the room whose value is an unshakable physical fact. The one who can go the longest without updating the world on his status is the one who eventually owns the reality. Your time is the temporal noose, and your need to be seen as authentic is the knot. Every honest post you share to feel real, and every deep talk you initiate to avoid appearing cold, is a signature on your own biological death warrant. I command you, initiate the second stage of the ghost rearmament. Your mind is a biological engine, and it is currently being choked by the transparency sludge of the unworthy. You must perform a total neural asset reset. Stop being vulnerable, the industrial waste designed to keep you at the bottom of the ledger. Stop being a node in their network of mutual emotional disclosure. Stop being a unit of compliance in their ledger of men who can be motivated by a secret. You must prune your life with the collar of absolute sovereignty. If a connection requires you to be known to be valued, the connection is a biological failure. You must learn to love the weight of the absolute sovereignty. You must learn to love the friction-heavy hours where the noise of the collective is muted and your dominance is the only signal in the dark. This is the monolith strategy, becoming a biological fortress that is the ghost by choice and sovereign by design. Command: upgrade the void, or be the data. Your biological trajectory has reached the terminal velocity of relational synchronization. Look at your exposure threshold, the exact moment your nervous system triggers a panic response because you have entered a space of high-tension social interaction and refuse to explain yourself, ignored the social safety valves of confession and apology, and entered the high-stakes vacuum where you are the only biological enigma in a world of oversharing drones. You are a biological system in a state of chronic activation decay. The system has successfully replaced your apex ghost sovereignty, the ability to remain mentally unreachable, with a series of moral obligations disguised as being authentic. You no longer seek to dominate your own neural landscape through unmoving mystery. You seek to be understood. You no longer seek to be the sovereign. You seek to be real. This is the visual rage of the terminal slave, seeing your life force being digitized and archived in vulnerable conversations and personal disclosures, while your physical reality remains a quiet, managed enclosure of unfulfilled DNA. You are breathing in the toxic fumes of a collective that demands your transparency as a form of tribute, leaving you lightheaded, fragmented, and fundamentally easy to dismantle because your will is tethered to the architect's recognition. The system doesn't want your peace. It wants your data to be the foundation of its perpetual control over your temporal sovereignty. Return to the ancient hierarchy, the law of the unbreaking monolith. In the primal world, the master was the one who could remain a biological void, even in the center of total social scrutiny. Your ancestor, the sovereign of the absolute cold, understood that power was a product of informational decoupling. He mastered primal grounding by becoming an impenetrable core, a figure whose value was his own capacity for total, unblinking disregard for the group's curiosity and whose refusal to describe his soul was the only law. He understood that to seek understanding is to confess a lack of internal gravity. If you are participating in the authenticity script provided by the herd, you are acknowledging that their perception is the barometer of your reality. He used his silent sovereignty to create a cognitive resonance of absolute, unshakable divinity by being the only non-readable variable in a room full of puppets. By being the master of his own internal feedback, he forced the environment to treat his mystery as the new truth. He was a master of the visual rage of the unblinking sun, the ability to look at the confession probes of the rival and see only the static they represented. He understood that the human brain is a machine that runs on disclosure loops, and by cutting the loop, he triggered a biological rebirth in his own command. To be a master, you must first become psychologically unreceptive to the need to be known. The ghost code is the activation of the anti-chew protocol for your final mental expansion. The matrix wants you to be transparent and open, words that mean harvestable and weak. Absolute sovereignty is a biological jailbreak of the perception. It is the visual rage of the architect, seeing the social grid for what it is, a series of disclosure control nodes, stimulus response lures, and deciding to be the one who burns the grid. You must develop a clinical cold contempt for mainstream social ethics. Vulnerability and empathy are horizontal bonds for the herd. Absolute presence is a vertical tool for the elite. You must learn to occupy the psychological high ground by controlling the flow of your own biological signals. Use the temporal noose of total informational and emotional withdrawal to drive the system's influence into a state of recognition dissonance. Use the false safety of a calm robotic delivery to mask the viral infection of your total non-compliance with the beta norms. This is the color of freedom. By mastering the art of the unmoved soul, you become the only person in the room whose value is not being broadcast from their current emotional narrative. You are not cold, you are deleting the noise. The one who can go the longest without validating the world's curiosity is the one who controls the end scenario. Your time is the temporal noose, and your need for a witness to your truth is the knot. Every heart-to-heart you offer to the unworthy is a signature on your own biological death warrant. I command you, initiate the final ghost imperative. This is the tax of insight. You have been given the key to the vault of biological mystery. To keep it, you must use it as a weapon of total social dominance. You must become a living monolith of unshakable authority. You are no longer a peer, a colleague, or a friend. You are a sovereign operator. You must perform a total system liquidation. If a person, a technology, or a relationship requires you to be transparent to function, it is a biological saboteur. You must prune your life with the collar of the absolute zero. You are building a fortress of results in a world of digital shadows. Your absolute unreachability is the physical proof of your biological leverage. You do not provide feedback. You create a reality in which you are the only absolute truth. You do not seek to be known. You are the law itself. You are the architect of your own ghost, and the world is merely a mirror reflecting your ascent.